The cafe was noisy, filled with the sound of clinking cups and chatter, but at one table in the corner sat a girl with worn-out shoes, a second-hand notebook, and a tired smile that refused to leave her face. Her name was Amara. For years she had been living on the edge of survival, working small jobs, sometimes going hungry, yet never letting her spirit collapse. She didn't have money, but she had something else, something extraordinary. A gift. It started when she was a child. She grew up in a refugee neighborhood, surrounded by people from different lands. Syrians, Turks, Afghans, Kurds, Arabs, Persians, even a few Europeans who had lost their way in a foreign land. Out of necessity, she learned to speak one language at a time. At first to help neighbors, then to survive, and finally because she loved the music of words. By the time she turned 20, she could fluently speak 9 languages: Arabic, English, French, Turkish, Farsi, Urdu, Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin. But nobody cared. Employers laughed at her when she applied for jobs because her clothes were shabby. Schools didn't accept her because she couldn't pay tuition. Even her neighbors sometimes mocked her, saying, "Languages don't fill your stomach." That day, she was in the cafe waiting for a chance. A wealthy Arab businessman named Zaid walked in with his entourage. He was tall, confident, wrapped in luxury, his watch alone worth more than her entire street. People whispered his name, Zaid al-Mansur, a millionaire investor traveling the world in search of business opportunities. Amara watched him carefully. She knew men like him didn't see girls like her. But destiny has a strange way of creating encounters no one expects. As Zaid ordered in English, the barista struggled to understand. Amara, sitting nearby, softly repeated the order in Arabic. Zaid turned his head, surprised to see the poor girl. "You speak Arabic?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Amara nodded shyly. "Yes, and English, and French, and Turkish." She hesitated, then whispered, 9 languages in total. The table erupted in laughter. Zaid's assistant smirked, shaking his head. 9 languages, and yet you sit here with broken shoes and no job." Zaid chuckled, sipping his coffee. "Impressive but useless. What good are 9 languages if you're still poor?" Amara's cheeks burned. But instead of shrinking, she looked him straight in the eyes. "Languages are keys. Maybe you don't see their value yet, but one day you might need the very key I hold." For a moment, silence fell. Something in her voice carried conviction. Zaid smirked and waved her off. "Dreamer," he said. But fate wasn't finished. For the twist of destiny, later that week, Zaid was scheduled to meet a group of investors from across the globe. The deal was massive, worth millions. But there was a problem. Each investor came from a different country and communication was faltering. Translators were late and misunderstandings grew. Zaid's frustration rose. Time was money, and he was losing both. And then, like a whisper of fate, Amara appeared again. She had been hired as a temporary waitress at the same hotel where the meeting was held. She carried trays of tea unnoticed, until one of the Russian investors said something Zaid couldn't understand. Without thinking, Amara translated fluently. The room froze. The Turkish investor raised an eyebrow and spoke. Again Amara translated, smooth, natural, accurate. Within minutes, she became the invisible bridge connecting 9 men who had been struggling to understand each other. Zaid watched in stunned silence. The girl he had laughed at, the girl with broken shoes, was now saving his $1 million deal. When the meeting ended in success, the investors clapped for Amara. Some even hugged her, praising her rare gift. Zaid stood speechless, humbled by the realization her words had been worth more than gold. The challenge after the meeting. Zaid approached her. "You saved my deal today," he admitted, his voice softer. "Why didn't you tell me you were this capable?" Amara smiled faintly. "I did, but you laughed." His face flushed with guilt. For the first time in years, someone had made Zaid question himself. He offered her a job immediately, but Amara hesitated. "I don't want pity, I want respect. I want to use my gift to help people, not just make the rich richer." That night, Zaid couldn't sleep. He kept replaying her words: respect, dignity, purpose. She was poor but richer in values than anyone he knew. Zaid tested her again, taking her on business trips: China, Spain, Turkey, France. Each time, Amara effortlessly connected cultures, closing deals no one else could. She wasn't just a translator, she was a bridge between worlds. Slowly, she became known as the girl who spoke 9 languages. But it wasn't easy. Some mocked her background. Others whispered rumors, jealous of her sudden rise. On one trip, officials even accused her of lying about her skills until she stunned them by switching between 5 languages in under a minute. Every challenge only polished her brilliance further. 2. The transformation. Months passed. Zaid began to see Amara not just as a girl who saved his deals, but as a soul who saved him from arrogance. He admired her resilience, her unshakable faith that knowledge was never wasted. She taught him humility, that wealth without respect meant nothing. One evening, while watching a sunset in Istanbul after a successful negotiation, Zaid finally confessed, "You were right. Languages are keys. You didn't just open doors for me, you opened my eyes." Amara smiled, her heart full. She had started as the girl everyone overlooked, but now she was proof that true worth comes from within, not from riches or appearances. To the inspiring end. Years later, Amara opened her own language academy for refugee children. With Zaid's support, she gave free education to kids who had been silenced by poverty, just like she once was. Children who once had no voice now spoke in many tongues, building bridges of hope across nations. And whenever someone asked her how it all began, she would smile and say, "With broken shoes, a notebook, and the courage to believe that my voice mattered."